Hello there and welcome to the programme. We've got a very special interview today with an amazing couple who's going to share their testimony. So I want to encourage you to call your friends, call your family, because this programme is an inspirational programme and it's going to really enlighten you into their journey, and it's going to help to reach out to so many others as well. I'm delighted to say that I'm joined by Pastor Andrew and Pastor Debbie. Thank you so much for joining me on the set today, and you've got so much things that have happened in your own personal lives, and we're going to get to that in the programme. But just give us an idea, how did you guys meet? Tell us a story. Where did it all begin?
We actually met quite some years ago, about 1989, I think it was, the beginning. So we met actually working in a English pub.
Yeah.
So we both worked behind the bar, and that's how we met.
And what was it? Was it love at first sight? How did you feel? Tell us.
She loved me at first sight, didn't she?
You'll say that. Debbie, is that true?
Not quite.
Good.
It's interesting because Debbie knew some of my friends. I knew some of her friends. We went to the same town. We lived like a mile from each other over a bridge that separated us only. And yet we never met or never knew each other. Wow. In fact, some of my best friend actually went to, in the same year as Debbie.
Same school.
Still never met her. Then I go to London 4 years later, to come back when I was about 22. And then we both got a little job in a bar, and we met outside of Chester in that bar.
It reminds me, to be honest, of the testimony of me meeting my wife. I met my wife in London in an airport, and we grew up in Spain, literally 10 minutes from each other.
Oh, you're kidding?
And at the time I was living in London and she was living in London. Both of our parents lived 10 minutes from each other in Spain. And that's a God incident, isn't it? It's really
Absolutely.
God's working. So what happened next? Tell us your life. Give us a little story of your life.
I think the group of people that we were around at the time, the plan was to all go out, and it ended up just being the two of us. So, you know, as God works. But we actually didn't know God at the time. So this is going before, you know, God really got hold of us. But he knew what he was doing. Obviously, when you always look back, you realise his intentions, you know, well, what he's working on, even though we didn't realise it at the time. We're very opposites as well. So yes, again, he knows what he's doing rather than, you know, us, doesn't he? And there was opportunity also of Andrew going back to London, where that would not have been on my horizons, I would have said. It's not something I would have ever thought of. So there was a choice to be made, as it is the choice was that he obviously wanted to be around me because he decided to stay.
So you talked about this was before you became a Christian. Now,
yes.
Tell us how you came to Christ. Where did that journey begin? Did you do that together?
Nope.
No.
That was quite opposite too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I came to Christ before Debbie by 5 years.
Right.
Yeah. So I was about 29 when I came to the Lord. So we'd known each other from about 23, 22 to that age still. And I had a real Damascus Road, which is another testimony, but it's a real Damascus Road event, and I just completely changed. Completely.
Well, tell us.
Well, I was quite different to, well, hopefully I'm quite different to what I was then. I wasn't the nicest of guys at all. Was involved in all sorts. And I needed to, and the question that really someone asked me once was, do you believe in God? And my answer at the age of 23, 24 was, well, it's irrelevant, it's got nothing to do with me. And I just carried on.
Tell us, what was Andrew like when he had this one-way vision? What did that feel for you?
Yeah, it was like the bad boy with the good girl.
Yeah.
Type scenario, I think, really. Although it was not really seen on the outside, but he was known for, you know, friends would say, why are you with him? So it was quite obvious to other people. And he was just, very self, and he didn't really want to socialise with people. It was a case of, and even his own family, he wasn't really interactive, with them. So again, God knows why he kept us together, because on the outside, people would say, why are you together?
Is it because did you see his heart? Did you go down through those layers and you saw on the surface he was a certain way, but you could see deep down there was something special about him that maybe you could even change? Did you have hope in that way at least?
I think at times, yes. I think also how he is with others is not necessarily how he is with me. So, I got to see the connection, the funny side, that we had that, as well, which, others didn't see. And also I knew that obviously he wanted to take care of me. So while all these other things weren't as normal for most people, there is that hope of trying to break down certain barriers too.
Did you have people at that time saying you shouldn't be with him,
Yeah, of course.
you're better than this,
Yeah.
but you just had that kind of, you were fighting against all those battles of people around you, and you said, no, I'm going to make it work?
Yeah, absolutely. You do, because you don't always see what other people see, because when you're in love and you think, this is it, this is, your catch. This is, this is my guy. And it's, it is. But was it hard? Yes, as well. So there is that in you where there's part of you that does wrestle, because you want things to be a certain way and there's certain areas that you want to be better. And you do come to a point, and I know probably we both have, and certainly for me back then, where I thought, can't do this.
Yeah.
And you do actually then wonder whether you should carry on or not.
But when you were seeing this, Andrew, obviously you met a lovely lady, and she saw through you, and she gave that hope to think, I'm going to be determined. And you probably were aware other people were saying you deserve better than this. Did that soften your heart in any way? Did you feel any change after you met her?
No change at all.
Give our viewers an insight. What were you like? Tell us.
I wouldn't want to socialise. I didn't smile. I didn't laugh. I didn't want to talk to anyone. And if no one really was part of what my ambitions, you could say, were, then I was work driven. I was very. I came out of college and university, and they set me on this fast track. And so they raced me up the ladder. I mean, incredibly. I was reporting to directors of a big retail company, reporting to the directors in my 20s. Wow. So I was really fast-tracked up. And around that and that's all I knew. I went from college to university to that job, and all I knew was business. So, and I was doing well at it. And I thought, I'm good. I can go even further.
Was that making you happy? No. You said you were ambitious and you worked your way up, and I'm sure you were well paid as well. Was that the fulfillment that you were looking for?
Not at all. The end game for me was when many things happened along the way which were surprises too, but the end game or the answer to that is the time when I sat on the sofa. I think some of the viewers may have heard me intimate a little bit towards this, when I just said, I can't do this anymore. I can't. I was stressed. I was over. I'd had too much. I was overfilled with something I didn't know what it was, and I said. I lay on the sofa when I was about 29 and said, I'd had enough. I'd literally had enough. I had everything ready and planned out to take my life, and I wanted to end it there and then.
Were you on alcohol? Were you on any sort of drugs? Was there any other substances or anything else?
I was. Not at that point, because it was, I was working. But while I was in London and while I was a teenager, then I was very rebellious. I was renowned and well known for being rebellious too. I was the main man, so to speak. Everybody knew me. Everybody gathered round. I was bad, naughty. And when you get a reputation for that at school, then you get a lot of attention. And I did some incredible things. And that didn't stop at school. It carried on into college, carried on into university. I led a double life.
Yeah.
I was at London University. At the time, it was the third top university. The patron was the Queen, and I never went. You know, I was running 3 snooker clubs. And in London at the time then, snooker was quite big.
Yeah.
And I was the manager of 3 clubs. And I was still at university, still getting a degree. But I never went. Apparently my tutor passed me in the street, and we didn't know each other. So, and yet I still came out with a degree. But it was, what I didn't know was, of course, was that it was run by the London Irish Mafia. And I got involved in that. So I went from naughty to bad to downright criminalistic. And it all caught up in the end. And I think at that age there, when I was on the sofa, and I said, if I had everything set out ready to take my life, then I just said, well, God, if you are real, you better act now, because I've had enough. And literally those were my words. And I remember the sofa very well in our house in Chester.
And now, so Debbie was obviously with you during
Still
this
with
whole
me,
part.
yeah.
What were you going through? What was going through your mind during this whole process? Did you see what he was going through, and how were you feeling at that time?
No, because...
Did he hide it from you?
Yes. So, although I knew the character that he was, and a lot of the things that he spoke about London is before my time, but obviously some elements of that carried on through the time that we were together. But I was not aware of any of those things. And we were struggling, I think, for different reasons. For him, for that side of things catching up with him, and me for the relationship, obviously, not really being what you envisage a relationship to be. And I mean, the other aspect adding into that is that you hold so much hope for something more.
Yeah.
And the other thing he said when we first started going out, here's the most amazing thing, is that he also turned around and said, I'm never getting married and I'm never having children. Just out of the blue. And it was like, right.
And you probably obviously grew up
Okay.
thinking, I'm going to get
You're
married.
married. You know, but this was, you know, even in the early days, and it was such a strange thing to say. So, you know, you've got all those, you know, going on as well. But still thinking, obviously, in hope, you're together for so long, but I had no idea about this type of life.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, as we know now, we are married.
Yeah.
We are with God, and we do have 3 children.
Amen. And it just shows.
You know.
Number one is, tell us about that journey with Christ. You were at the end of your life. You felt that was it. There was no hope. You were in despair as well. Tell our viewers, for people who have never experienced anything, what is it that comes into your mind to feel you don't want to live anymore? And then how did you get out of that, and where did your journey with Christ begin?
When I was on the sofa, the biggest thing, and the one word you can put it down to, was no hope. You feel as though, Si, you've got no hope. And we've spoken to so many people since who have had the same feelings, and it's all down to that one thing. They feel as though they can't get out of something. They feel as though there's no exit, there's no plan B, there's no hope. And that's why people threaten or take their own lives, is they feel that. And so I screamed out. I said, Lord, if you're real, and do these 2 things. And these 2 things, they're personal things, but they were absolutely ridiculous things. It was like saying, I know you're not there. I know you're not going to answer, so I'm going to take my life because you're not going to answer them. And both prayers were answered. It was incredible. So I said, right, okay, then I'll give it a go. Maybe there's something in this. And and I started reading the Bible. And I walked into a church in Chester, and I said to the vicar there, I just walked in, and I said, okay, right, I'm a bad man. I need to change. Tell me what the 10 commandments were, and I'll leave you to it. And literally says, no, come in. And it was a wonderful man. He put me through discipleship, a little discipleship course there. And there wasn't a set day when I could say I gave my life to the Lord, But in June 1996, then I gave my life around that time, and everything just changed from black and white to colour.
I mean, what were you feeling like? You obviously see this transformation. It's
Yeah.
like day to night.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was going through your mind at that time?
Yeah, kind of, who is this, really? Because when you're, in some ways it was quite a shock, and also it was kind of being wary, because although this was great, and for a lot of people, you know, who then see him, it's great, but mine's day to day, and I was like, who is this? Can I trust him? Because, as he says, he was certainly one way, very direct, and what he says goes, and that's it. And then all of a sudden, I've got this somebody who's saying, let's chat, let's talk about this, and, you know, by this point, we had got married, and we got our first, we were then 97, we had our first daughter.
When you said you came to faith and you went into that church, you built that relationship with Jesus Christ, did you now pass this on to Debbie? Did you tell Debbie about this? Or
Didn't say a word to her.
Right.
Didn't give her, didn't throw. She knew where I was going.
Yep.
She said, I'm going off to church now, and Debbie said, okay. And for 4 years, that carried on.
Yeah.
I never threw the Bible at her. I would continually pray for her.
Yeah.
But God just showed through a changed life, something that was unmistakable. It was unmissable. The power of God just ran through some me, and everyone saw it. And they could see that it was something good was coming out of it. But it scared Debbie. I think it scared Debbie a little bit, because she actually said she's not sure which one she's more scared of, the person before or this new person now.
Yeah.
But she, in those first 4 years, then we came to Spain then, of course, the first time. That never said a word or gave her a word of the Bible, just prayed and loved her. So
Debbie, fast forward a little bit. Where did your journey with Christ begin? How did that begin for you personally?
Obviously, from the time that Andrew came to the Lord, obviously he was then praying. I did go to church, and as soon as we had our children, we all went to church. So it was a nice thing to do. Yeah. It's what we did on a Sunday. But there was a certain amount of, well, what are you reading now? What are you doing now and again? But at first it was quite scary, because I was like, what is this that's come into our home? Yeah. You know, so it's spiritual, isn't it? We know now, but at the time it was like, I don't know what to feel about this. You know, I didn't know whether I really liked it or so on. But fast forward coming to Spain.
Yeah.
We go to the Ark Church.
Yeah.
Andrew went through the telephone book, as you do, to find an English church. Yeah. Found the Ark Church and said, right, well, that's where we're going Sunday. And I went, right, okay. So, and it was in the centre of town. And we go there on a Sunday, and of course it's very evangelical, quite lively, and we're from C of E sort of church. And I came out, and I remember, and I suppose so many people have done this, I came out there and went, what a load of loonies.
Yeah.
I said, we can't be going back there, surely, you know. Next week, back we go. And I think it was about a month later, I gave my life to the Lord.
Wow, what a beautiful testimony. Now, moving forward, how life changed around you. You're now the pastors of that church many years later, but you also had a certain situation in your life because you were living in England at the time. Just briefly explain what happened to you on your personal level with the news of you coming to Spain, but also during that process, you had cancer, you had leukemia. Just tell our viewers about it.
So that was the first time we came to Spain, which was in the year 2000. And we stayed in Spain at the Ark, as members of the Ark, till 2008. And then we went back to England. So when we went back to England, we were there 9 years, I think, altogether. Yeah. But in 2015, that was when I came back from a night shift, because I was on the taxis. And I just fell over in the toilet, bowled over with pain, and there was blood, and there was a real pain as well, and I couldn't get up, I couldn't move. They did some tests, and they just said, "Oh, it'll be it'll be an infection." So a month later, it happened again though. And then, of course, that's when all the alarm bells went off. The doctors got me in. They started doing real tests, and these are called referrals. They last about 3 months. They test and they test and they don't find anything. Then they take you to the SUT to do a more intrusive one, and then you have to wait another month for the results. So those referrals are like 3 months, and they take. It's a lot of stress. And I remember this doctor saying to me right at the beginning, he says, "Well, you've had 4 now. I'm reluctant to give you a 5." And I saw that same doctor about 1.5 years later. And I said, "Do you remember when you said that?" She said, "Oh, yes, I do." He said, "Why, have you had a few more?" I said, "Yeah, I've had 15.
Wow.
And I remember her giving me a card saying, "You probably don't need to see a psychiatrist because you must need one." Yeah. I said, "I don't need one of those," but again, I gave her a church card instead.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so that time there. But in 2016, we came on holiday. Debbie had arranged a 50th birthday holiday to Spain. And we'd said we'd probably not come back to Spain. We've done it once, it was wonderful. But, and we had house groups going on at the time. And those house groups were really successful. We had waiting lists for the house groups. We were having 2 a night sometimes. They were absolutely incredible things. So we saw no reason why God would want to change any of that. But we came on a holiday for about 5 days. And we went to Cordoba for 3 of those. And we went with another couple. And we did Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 2, which said some things. And basically we're called back to Spain. And I remember saying to Deb in the hotel room when I got back, that's not for us. No, I don't think that's for us. But no, I don't want to pray to you, Lord. Not going to pray in case it's real.
Yeah.
But tossing and turning till about 3 in the morning, he then says, "Are you ready to pray now?" I says, "Nope, not going to pray, Lord God, just in case it's real." "Deb, are you awake?" "Yes." Yeah. "Right, we need to pray this out and see what happens."
Yeah.
But what we'd done at that time of prayer, though, Si, which is quite really encouraging for people, is that we set time aside and listened to what God had to say with no agenda whatsoever.
Yeah.
And the 4 of us had exactly 3 things that God had given us, and all 3 were the same.
Wow.
It was miraculous. And one of those, but one of them had a little extra to their 3, which was the fulfillment of that would be me and Debbie coming back to Spain as pastors.
Right.
So our first response was, no, that's not on our radar. But overnight, everything changed. The Lord had said to me, he said, what's your problem? I said, well, we do discipleship, we're not pastors. And he said, well, if I'd called you, will I equip you? Yes. Any other problems? We're not called to do this, are we? How will I know what to do? And he says, how do you always know what to do? I said, by your spirit. Okay, any other problems? No. I think Deb, we're going to Spain. What do you think?
Wow.
And that's how it turned out.
And this is in the midst of everything else going on health-wise as well now.
Well, that was, but there was no diagnosis then.
Yeah.
We call it the 7 miracles, and we still do really, because at that time we agreed. And what happened then was the guys who were with saying it's going to take about a year to go from where the church was to move us into a new building and to be able to, for us to be pastors. So from April 2016, we were due to come in about April 2017. And this timing's quite really encouraging. So I would like the viewers just to think about the timings of this a little bit as well. So at that time, he'd called us in. Straight after, I got a diagnosis. They found out after 1.5 years that it was cancer.
Wow.
And actually they found it out by chance. I had a letter received on the doorstep of my house saying, come for a test. No one, to this day, we don't know who sent it. There was no signature on the bottom of it. There was no, it just said the hospital. And I turned up for it, and there's when they found the cancer.
How were you feeling through this process, Debbie?
Yeah, actually, I was pretty calm.
Wow.
I was actually very calm, certainly over the first diagnosis.
Yeah.
The first cancer one, I actually didn't feel troubled.
Why do you think that was?
that's only God's grace, I think, really. You know,
Was
He
your
gives
faith
me
strong
peace.
with God at that time that you just left it in His hands? How
Yeah,
was it?
I think so, because of what came next as well, which is the leukemia.
Tell us about it.
Because not long after, obviously, I remember being at work and Andrew had gone to his appointments because he had quite a few appointments. So he did go on his own. And this one was to get results of some more tests. And I remember getting a phone call, and it was near the end of my sort of shift, my work day. And he rang me and said he got leukemia. And I have to say, on the end of the phone, there was, I wasn't distraught, but there was shock. And I had to go back in to my work, and I had to tell the people I was with. And it was near the end, and I said, I'll be okay, and I'll just get home. And I remember going home, and it was about lunchtime, and I walked in, and I burst into tears. And I can remember just standing there crying. But then, the most miraculous, wonderful, amazing God that we have, both said to us separately, he'll be okay.
Wow. What message of hope could we give to our viewers today who are going through difficult times in their own life, whether it's a family situation, whether it's a health situation or a financial situation? They're in a turmoil, they don't know which way to turn, they're in despair, they're in a dark hole. They feel there is no way out. What would you say to that viewer today?
I would say that you have to come before God. You have to find the message that He has specifically for you. And certainly with other people around you, you know, get those that are close to you, get them praying so they can hear, you know, to receive the comfort that you need, to receive that fight message that you need. For me, when there's trouble, I know when I have peace, that's God telling me it's going to be okay. That's what I receive. And that's, my hope is to keep hoping. I love the word hope. It's my favourite word.
Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your testimony and giving us a real personal insight. And we'll probably try and see if we can get you on again in the future. But this has been a real great programme and wonderful hope as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Si.